We would like to thank everybody who sent us their stories to whyme2k15@gmail.com. Keep sending them in and your story might get featured in the next Terrifying Tuesday. Number 5. White Shadow. Atol submitted this story. This is the story of the White Shadow. I live in New Delhi, the capital of India. This event happened to me, my mum, and my sister. The first sighting happened 10 years ago. I was 16 and my sister was 14. We lived in a very small house. Me, my mum and my sister shared one bedroom. The first time I saw the shadow, I saw it very briefly. It only appeared for a few seconds and looked like an old man. It was kind of like an apparition of an old man, but it was transparent. I remember shortly after this, one day I had a fever and a headache. My mum took me to a doctor. Once we returned, I had something to eat, then went to bed early because I felt really sick. In the bedroom we had a double bed and a single bed. I slept in a single bed alone and my mum and my sister slept in a double bed. I began to have a dream that a tall skinny man in white clothes began to attack me with a hammer very violently. Suddenly, I get awoken by a terrifying scream. My sister was screaming at the top of her lungs. My mum asked her what's wrong and she said she saw a white figure which looked like an old man which was standing near my pillow. She said the old man looked at her and smiled and that's when she started to scream. I told my friends about the dream and what had happened and people in my neighbourhood also reported the same old white shadow. Number 4. The 2 a.m. disfigured thing. This story was submitted by Ches. The first time I experienced something paranormal was when I was about 14 years old. I was sleeping over my cousin's house for the weekend. We played Call of Duty for most of the day and planned to pull an all-nighter, but we all ended up falling asleep one by one. My oldest cousin and I were the last ones awake. His parents were asleep upstairs and we were sleeping in the living room downstairs. It was about 2 a.m. and I really needed to use the bathroom. I made it down the hallway towards the bathroom. All of the lights were off and we didn't want to turn them on just in case we woke his parents up. I carefully made it down the hallway and made it into the bathroom. As I was washing my hands, I looked into the mirror which was directly in front of me. It was facing opposite the bathroom door so you could see into the hallway. In the hallway, I saw a black figure pass through. It freaked me out and I got that creepy feeling when the hairs stand up on the back of your neck. I decided to investigate as I convinced myself it might have been my cousin. So I looked out the bathroom door and checked each side of the hallway, but no one was there. I then made my way towards the living room. I could see my cousin standing in the living room with a look of terror on his face. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. I asked him what was wrong, but he didn't reply. This freaked me out. I just stood there in shock. He then said, "Something is behind you." I ran over to him then looked where I was standing, but nothing was there. I asked him what he saw and he said that as I was walking into the living room, something was behind me. He said he saw a tall, slender figure and its face was horribly disfigured. He said it had no feet and claw-like fingers. We did not sleep that night, and when everybody else woke up, we told them to get the hell out of there. They moved out shortly after. Me and my cousin done some research into the house a few years later and found out that a murder had happened there. My cousin brings it up now and then. Number 3. The demon under the bed. This story was submitted by Andrea. This didn't happen to me. It happened to my mother's best friend. This happened in Mexico City in the early 80s. My mum was friends with a couple called Robert and Alice. She had known Alice since primary school. During the time my mother was pregnant with me, Alice had a 4-year-old daughter called Elsie. The couple was financially stable and was looking to buy a house, but was finding it very hard. Alice believed it had something to do with Robert's mother. She was very possessive over him and was unhappy with his marriage and was really unhappy to find out that he was moving away from her. Robert's mother was known to dabble in witchcraft. People would go to her for things like cures, tarot readings and curses, such things like that. Robert and Alice moved out. They moved into a little 2-bedroom apartment. Robert and Alice slept in one bedroom and Elsie slept in the other. One night Alice woke up as she heard Elsie talking to someone. It was late, so Alice went to check on her. Alice found Elsie sitting up in bed and apparently talking with someone. She asked Elsie who she was talking to and Elsie said she was playing with her secret friend that lived under her bed. Alice dismissed it as a kid's imagination and eventually got Elsie back to sleep. Over the next few weeks, the same thing kept happening. Robert and Alice kept being awoken by Elsie giggling and talking. They began to get worried and started questioning Elsie about her friend. Elsie said that her friend lived under her bed and would only come out at night as it was scared of the sun. Robert and Alice told Elsie to stop pretending, but Elsie maintained that she was not. They then told her to ignore her friend so that she would go away. That night, they was awoken by Elsie crying. They went and checked on her and she said that her friend was mad at her for not wanting to play anymore and had told her bad things about her parents. Alice and Robert got very worried, so they talked to a friend who was very religious. She recommended that they got the house blessed. For 3 days, Robert and Alice and some of their friends, including my mother, prayed in the little apartment. Everything seemed okay for a few days. Elsie was okay during the night, and everything was calm. Then, one night, they woke up to Elsie screaming. They rushed into her bedroom and found her laying on her belly, crying and screaming that it hurt. They didn't see anyone or anything in the room. They then checked over Elsie's body and discovered scratches on her back. The day after, they made Elsie sleep with them. Then Alice woke up during the night as she felt someone breathing on her face. She opened her eyes and saw a dark, demon, shadowy figure staring directly into her eyes. She was terrified. They then moved back in with Robert's mother. While moving their stuff in, Alice went into Robert's mother's bedroom. Nobody was allowed in there unless they had an invitation. In the room, Alice found a jar. Inside it, there was a picture of Robert, Alice and Elsie. It also had some sand and something burned, and what looked like hair and fingernail clippings. It scared Alice, but she didn't mention it to Robert. Shortly after, Robert's mother died, and they threw out most of her belongings. Alice made sure that she threw out the jar. After this, Alice said that everything seemed easier. They got a nice house for a cheap price, and no more supernatural stuff continued to happen. Alice believes that Robert's mother cursed her family so that they would move in with her. Years later, when Elsie was 12, she told Alice that she remembered her friend that lived under the bed. She said it looked like a dog, but had ears on the side of its face rather than on the top of its head, and had big hairy paws with long fingers like a person. Number 2. Farm Ghosts. This story was submitted by Azri. He has also included some pictures of what he believes are ghosts he caught on camera. My name is Azri and I'm from Malaysia. I went to visit my family's fruit farm quite recently. I believe I have captured some pictures of spirits. A little history about the fruit farm. We inherited the farm from our ancestors and it is really old. Some of the trees there date back to 100 years ago. My family have told me that sometime in the past, someone had practiced black magic there and some parts of the farm are cursed with bad spirits. Our family believe that the fruit farm is riddled with paranormal activity. This is what happened on the day I took the pictures. Me and 5 other people arrived at 11:35 AM. We toured around the farm and had a look at all the different fruit trees and plantation that is there. About 20 minutes during this, it began to rain, so we headed to the main farmhouse. Once there, I started taking pictures from the farmhouse window so I could share them on social media. I checked the photos later on in the day and got really freaked out. This is what I captured in the photos. I didn't tamper with the photos. Most people that I have showed them to think that I have faked them, but I didn't. It might just be a camera malfunction, but I believe that I have caught some sort of spirit just because of the history and creepiness of the farm. Number 1. The Bus Ghosts. This story was submitted by Caesar. This happened in London in 2008. My friends and I took a bus home late at night when we was returning from the cinema. We sat on the upper deck of the bus. On some London buses, there are monitors at the top of the bus which streams live CCTV of inside the bus. While my friends were chatting away, I kinda zoned out and watched the CCTV footage. As it cycled through the footage, I noticed a woman and her child on the bus. The strange thing is that the child was sitting on the floor of the bus next to his mum. I thought it was strange, because why would someone let their child sit on the floor knowing how dirty London buses are? Plus, the child would have been blocking the pathway to other seats. I continued to watch it, and each time it went to them, they were sitting rigid and was always in the same position. I couldn't see their faces as they were sitting with their backs to the camera. I then told my friends about it and told them to check it out. Once it cycled through the footage, it got to where they were sitting, but they disappeared. The bus didn't stop to let anyone on either. I then realized that where they were sitting was actually on the upper deck of the bus. This creeped me out as there was no one there and there never had been. When we got on the bus, there was no one on it, and it didn't stop to let anybody on as it was quite late. All I've got to say is, I slept with the light on that night. To this day, I can vividly recall how the mother and her son were sitting rigidly frozen. Only their backs were showing, and I'm glad that they never did turn their heads to face the CCTV. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to submit your stories so they can be featured in the next Terrifying Tuesday.